各位觀眾，大家好，歡迎收睇26分鐘見證實錄。喺今年4月結束嘅聯邦大選之中合共有12名嘅原住民候選人成功當選，咁係加拿大歷史上原住民議員最多嘅一屆國會。咁適逢9月30號係全國真相與和解日，我哋一齊會去認識一下新當選嘅聯邦自由黨國會議員，嚟自 Musqueam 民族嘅 Wade Grant 自堅，聽聽佢嘅從政之路。
My name is Wade Grant. My traditional name is Tsleil-Waututh. I come from the Musqueam Nation.
So Aimshin, that just means my name is Aimshin. It's traditionally it comes from Tsleil-Waututh. My dad would never talk about residential school, but my grandfather, Chief Dan George, when he spoke the language, they chopped his finger off. He was 5 years old.
Residential schools are a dark part of Canadian history, one that we shouldn't try to cover up.
But when you clean the past pain and trauma, then you can see light at the end of the tunnel.
And now we want to share it with the rest of Canada. We want to share it with the youth, the elders. We want to share it with all because our history is Canadian history.
His dream was that, we would, young people would pick up the tools of the white man's success and like the thunderbird of old rise out of the sea and become one of the strongest sediments of society. And today, we are his dream come true.
I'm not just an Indigenous member of Parliament. I'm a member of Parliament who happens to be Indigenous. This is where we still have our dances and our ceremony, for lack of a better term, a potlatch, right? Where we have hundreds of people, they go inside there, and it's only heated by 2 wood fires in there. And so you see they're preparing for the winter because it's only done in the winter. All that wood is going to be used for the fires in there. My name is Wade Grant. My traditional name is Tsleil-Waututh. I come from the Musqueam Nation. I'm half Musqueam. My grandfather on my father's side is from southern China and immigrated in the 1920s. I'm very proud to be Musqueam and proud to be a Chinese Canadian. And my grandmother on my mother's side is a second generation from Europe. I was born and raised in Musqueam. I spent many years on Chief and Council as an elected member of our government there. When I got my name, Tsleil-Waututh, I got it in there. And when my children got their names, I gave it to them in there. And we actually had Premier David Eby come to my children's naming ceremony. He came here, and Mayor Ken Sim as well was here. So that's why we want to share our culture, right? And this is an important building, probably the most important building in our community. I really look back at my years as a elected member of Chief and Council in Musqueam. It was the very first time that I was able to go outside our community, start engaging with people at different levels of government, but more importantly, engage with community members, engage with those people that live in Vancouver Quadra, that live in Burnaby, that live in Surrey, to share our stories and invite them down to Musqueam. One of the first things that I did as a councillor was to be a part of something called the Urban Dialogues project in the city of Vancouver that brought First Nations, new Canadians, and urban Aboriginals together for conversations. This is where reconciliation actually is happening, is at the ground level for conversations like those that happen. Through that, I was able to be more involved in citizenship. I had a citizenship ceremony in this venue that we're sitting here right now. To be able to share the history and the stories was it was something that was really invigorating to me. So to be able to create those relationships is something that has allowed me to be more brave in talking with people, bringing ideas forward, not being scared to speak up when I don't agree with something, and that's something that's going to be important for me as a member of Parliament. This is our little museum dedicated to one of our ancient villages up by what is now called Marpole, South Granville. And this is our declaration that we made in the 1970s, declaring that we still live and have title over to our territory. And this border is the actual traditional territory of the Musqueam people. Luckily, I was born, my parents didn't go to residential schools. So I was raised in a family where my parents said, be proud to be Musqueam, but be proud to be Canadian as well, and take those lessons and try to be a positive light when it comes to reconciliation, when it comes to bringing communities together. There's a lot of mistrust with First Nations people about the Canadian government and because of what had happened in the past. There's a lot of mistrust with my grandfather's generation of Chinese immigrants because of how they were treated. So how do I take the positives out of that? Don't forget about what happened and the negatives. You don't have to be, you can still be angry about it, but don't be vengeful about it, to actually use it as a positive way. So being a part of the government and being a voice around the table in the highest office of the land is something that has rarely happened in British Columbia. In fact, I'm only the third Indigenous or First Nations person to be elected. And I want to bring a voice that is one of bringing together both sides of the conversation and educating those that want to be educated, because there were so many years where our history wasn't taught in schools, and I hope I can be a part of bridging that gap so the next generation don't have to wait until they're adults to learn about what really this country is all about. It is about bringing people together and creating a brighter future. Oh, and there's me out fishing on the Fraser River. That was just a long time ago. I was in my 20s, I think, when that picture was taken. So you see how big the boats are that we have to fish against. So that's in the south arm of the Fraser River. Yeah. And I was 24 when I was there, when I was first elected as a councillor in Musqueam. That seems like a lifetime ago, but it allowed me to gain that experience to actually catapult into the next way of government. So it's important for us to get them in early, to be engaged early, because we do need their voices at the provincial level, at the municipal level, at the federal level, because those voices are ones that are going to create this country and mend it with that reconciliation. We need those voices to share right across this country what's happening and how we can come together.
Musqueam 部族示威者及其支持者早上沿溫市南區 Granville 街遊行，佢哋沿途擊鼓高歌。
About 12 years ago, we went down there. It was a protest because they were going to try to develop it, but we knew we still had people that were buried there, and they found some remains of some of our ancestors, and we stopped the development, and that's why this project came together. So. You see there's traditional basket weaving, those types of residential schools are a dark part of Canadian history, one that we shouldn't try to cover up. We need to embrace the stories, the histories of those that went to residential schools, those that actually didn't make it home. I am lucky enough to have uncles and aunts that made it home, and they didn't want to share their stories because residential schools and those that ran them took them away from their community and their parents at a very young age. They weren't allowed to speak their language, they weren't allowed to practice their culture, they weren't allowed to sing songs in the ways that we've done for thousands of years. And it was a policy that tried to eradicate our culture and make us into Canadians. But our elders, our ancestors were very strong, and they knew it was important to continue on. But we do have still a lot of intergenerational trauma that exists from residential school survivors. The last residential school didn't close until 1996, and there's still people alive that had gone through that trauma, and they pass that on to generation after generation if we don't embrace them and try to help them heal. So what we have now is a moment where we can move forward with intergenerational healing, and that will include all Canadians to come together to say, we stand with you, we recognize that you're hurt and the pain that you suffered, how can we help, how can we go along so that we can bring you back into our society as really the strong people that you are. Creating our longhouses and our traditional fishing methods where we still fish. We fish for salmon. We're actually doing that now. There's different harpoons and whatnot, and then there's arrowheads. This would have been like a traditional type of net that we would use to. I understand that there is a bit of a challenge. I'm not just an Indigenous member of Parliament. I'm a member of Parliament who happens to be Indigenous. I represent the members and the constituents in Vancouver Quadra, all of them, not just Musqueam, and I take that very seriously. I know that there are questions about Musqueam, but I think that me and my history and my experience is going to bring together the community in ways that we haven't seen before. There will be challenges. There will be times where I'm being asked to speak up and move forward. and there will be questions from chiefs and leaders. But I always have the utmost respect for them. I will always be somebody that's going to have my phone on and my email, and they reach out to me. I still talk with them all the time. It's important to have that dialogue because there still is mistrust with government. I know that. I saw it as I grew up. So to be able to be somebody that's on the other side now, to be somebody that you can trust, to bring together voices in Parliament is something that I will take very seriously, but I'm not just representing Musqueam, like I said, I'm representing all constituents in Vancouver, Quadra, and all Canadians across this country. So this is the mouth of the Fraser River. Actually, Simon Fraser, who it's named after, never actually made it here. He only made it to about New Westminster because Musqueam people turned him around because we had heard that he wasn't coming in good faith. So he never actually made it to here. But this is the lifeblood of Musqueam, the river. This is where we go fish. We go out to harvest crab and prawns for our food. So it's always been an important part of our history. Truth and Reconciliation Day on September 30th is a very important day. It's a day where we finally have recognized that the Indigenous people of this country suffered for many, many generations, but they're still here, strong, and want to be a part of this country. It is our Remembrance Day. It's the day that we remember those that went through so much so that they could still give us our culture and our history. And now we want to share it with the rest of Canada. We want to share it with the youth, the elders. We want to share it with all because our history is Canadian history. And that's what I hope everybody does on September 30th is go out and try to learn a little bit about the First Nations or Inuit or Métis in your community. Learn a little bit about that so that we can walk together and you can understand the stories and the history that's now your history.
除咗聯邦嘅層面，越嚟越多嘅原住民政客亦都活躍喺省級政治舞台。下一節翻嚟，我哋將會介紹嚟自 Tsleil-Waututh 民族嘅同非麗 Philip， 睇睇佢係點樣一步步走入卑詩政壇，開創自己嘅精彩篇章。歡迎翻嚟節目時間。同非麗 Philip 係卑詩新民主黨嘅省議員，同時擔任省社區發展及非牟利團體議會秘書。多年嚟，佢持續為原住民權益同埋社區發展奔走發聲。現時就等我哋一齊去聽聽佢係點樣以原住民嘅視角推動社區發展同埋和解。
When I first started working here, of course, we have a daycare center. We called it East Aimshin. That just means my name is Aimshin. It's traditionally it comes from Tsleil-Waututh, where my dad's from, and so I just want to thank our co-Salish relatives for the opportunity to be here. Of course, my English name is Joan Philip. When I was about 9 years old, we moved up to Lynn Valley with my stepdad, and he was very English. So I ended up going to public school, and I don't know which is worse, going to public school where I was going to school with very racist non-native kids, and or going to residential school. I was spared there, I guess, but still I experienced a lot of racism growing up. Firstly, I was really brutally raped when I was about 13 years old, and the guy that did it was a random attack, and he was very adamant that it was because I was a dirty you know what, and I was just shocked that I would be attacked in that kind of way, and I really, for the longest time, thought that there was something wrong with me. I was so fortunate that that I had gone to treatment 36 years ago and started my healing process then, because I don't know where I'd be right now had I not gone to treatment. I was 15 years old, and I was in North Van at a place called The Quarry, and I was looking over Vancouver, and I'd been stoned, I think, every day for a year. And then I thought, you know what, people are a lot worse off than I am. I've had enough. So I had enough. But when I quit drinking, it was, I didn't want to be drinking with my children. And finally alcohol is actually a depressant. I was sitting in the backyard with a .22 tucked under my neck. And I was just so sad. And it was like a volcano of these sad feelings bubbling up. And it's from unresolved pain and trauma. And all I was doing was crying and crying and crying. And then I thought, I need to go to treatment. When it comes to residential school, it's really Canada that wears the shame for what happened. Because they're the ones that were responsible for imposing the residential school system on us. My dad would never talk about residential school, but my grandfather, Chief Dan George, when he spoke the language, they chopped his finger off. He was 5 years old. So there's so many stories of how horrific the residential school experience was. I think Cooper Island was probably one of the worst, because they would, when you got enrolled, they gave you a number. And the kids couldn't even go outside and play without being afraid, because every now and again, a window would fly open, a number would get called, and that kid would have to go into the building knowing that he would be raped by the priest. And everybody knew what was happening to him. And when he come out, he'd be walking like that, and kids wouldn't even look at him. They wouldn't even look at him. They just, well, his head was down. The worst thing about residential school is it's not only the kids that get taken away, the parents are abandoned because their kids are gone for the entire year. But the other aspect of this is those parents that had gone to residential school knew exactly what was going to happen to their children. And my father-in-law took the entire family and hid in the mountains and lived there for months to keep his kids from having to go to residential school. He couldn't hold them forever, and they were eventually apprehended. It's understandable that people that have suffered pain and trauma, so a lot of our people that were taken away through the residential school system don't know how to hug, don't know how to love, don't know, and it's all learned behavior, but without parents, where do you learn that? You don't learn it from a cold institution with nuns and priests that abuse you. So it's going to take a lot of generations to heal from that past trauma. But when you clean the past pain and trauma, then you can see light at the end of the tunnel, and that's, I knew in my heart that the Creator existed, but it didn't match what was in my heart, so the two came together. So not only did I know that the Creator existed, I felt it, because there were too many things that seemed coincidental that I don't think it's a coincidence. It's all meant to happen this way. A lot of times polls will either tell a story, or it's like commemorate a family crest, but this has to represent all of BC. So you've got men, you've got frogs, you've got owls, which are very smart, and the bear and the twins. Oh my goodness, there's a story about the bears and twins. I'm a twin, and the first one born's the brown bear, second one born's the black bear. I think I was a politician when I was born. My mother and my older brother were always arguing politics as we were growing up, and so that was kind of the start. My mom was extremely active in the community, and she was the one that initially was given this name, Aimshin, which means dear one, from Tsleil-Waututh through a formal ceremony. And I recall one of my uncles was saying, "Oh, I remember your mom." He said, cops couldn't come out on the reserve without stopping by Fran's house because she would not allow our rights to be trampled on by particularly RCMP police. So she's been an advocate for people's rights. She was a social worker and worked right here in this building for many years, making sure that kids were able to stay at home. She spent a lot of her time in the courts making sure that kids stayed home. So I guess I'm my mother's daughter. It's a place for us to come. It was established not just as a drop-in center, but delivering services, providing educational opportunities. Like, this is 48,000 square feet. It's huge. And we have the I can tell you I'm just so fortunate. I joined the New Democratic Party in 1972 when Dave Barrett was there. And things have changed so much since then. British Columbia was one of the first jurisdictions in the country to adopt the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. And we also have an action plan. And we recognize the shared jurisdiction over the traditional territories. So I'm just so fortunate to work in a government that respects our rights and our shared title to the lands.
When they gave me my meat and my clothes.
My grandfather is Chief Dan George, and he delivered a soliloquy to Canada back in 1967. And the long and short of it is what he said was, he lamented the loss of our land, loss of our resources, and even loss of authority over ourselves. But what he said was that his dream was that, that we would, young people would pick up the tools of the white man's success and like the thunderbird of old rise out of the sea and become one of the strongest segments of society. And today, we are his dream come true. Thank you, Haishkasian.
好啦，今集嘅節目時間就差唔多啦。咁如果觀眾對我哋嘅節目有啲乜嘢意見嘅話，係好歡迎大家以電郵嘅方式同我哋聯絡㗎。我哋嘅電郵地址係mag26@fairchildtv.com。咁如果觀眾想上網重溫今集嘅節目，亦都可以上到去我哋嘅網站3w.fairchildtv.com， 點擊節目重溫一欄就可以睇得返㗎啦。下星期同一時間再同大家見面，晚安。